The theme of my speech this evening was about the need for traditional financial actors to adapt to a changing environment. New actors are emerging, leveraging technology that brings in new financial services or a new way to provide financial services. Whether it is in traditional finances with new services that are more customer-centered, whether it is in asset management that goes digital, or whether it is with more disruptive actors such as e-commerce or telecom actors in the financial industry, or even virtual currencies. All these are issues that the financial industry has to grapple with, but also policymakers and regulators.
What I did is I took the audience back to 2008, financial crisis, how we got out of the crisis with massive intervention from both central banks across the world, and the consequences of that intervention. In very short, two major things happened, or two major consequences happened. Number one, very low interest rate environment was consequence number one. And consequence number two is that you saw a massive drop in volatility across the world, across asset classes. As a result of that, you see that asset allocation for institutional investors is shifting today from what used to be called active investing into, on the one side, passive investing. So those are the people who really focus on lowering the cost of managing their assets. And on the other side, you've got people who are going into the alternative routes. So that's private equity, real estate, hedge funds, infrastructure, in the search for that little extra yield, that little extra premium that private markets will give you. So that in a nutshell was to look at 2008, consequences, and the way asset managers today allocate their business.
It was about the Uberization of the financial industry. And the question is not whether it will happen, because it's already happening, but how it will happen. And I think that's the crux of the intervention. If you look at, for instance, Uber or Airbnb, those companies haven't invented new products. Uber is transporting one person from one place to the other. Nothing new. But what has completely changed is in the way they communicate, in the way they produce the service, in the way they market the service, and more important, in the way the service is being consumed by people. They don't consume a Uber transportation the same way as they take a taxi. And that is completely changing. You put that in the financial industry, you got exactly the same thing. The lending club, nothing new. They simply lend money from one person to the other person. But they completely change the way people connect with that activity. And that is absolutely changing. So the question now is, will the bank be able to react to that? I think it will be extremely difficult. Will the banks disappear? No. But most probably, the business of the banks will be completely different in 5-10 years from now than it is today.
I try to draw the attention of the audience on what the central banks might consider doing over the, let's say, 20 years. And I think they will have to revisit both monetary policy implementation and their monetary policy strategy. As for implementation, one can envisage possibly a change in the operational target of monetary policy, moving from short-term interest rates to much longer-term interest rates, and in a certain way, not relying, as it is the case today, on the banking industry to organize a pass-through of monetary policy stimulus to the real economy. And as for the strategy, one might think about revisiting the definition of price stability, also the way it is measured through indices, and perhaps, I'm not making any forecast or prediction here, but perhaps they can even consider another ultimate target for monetary policy, namely nominal income.